If you're in batch manufacturing, you know that cleaning is a big deal. It's absolutely non-negotiable. But what if I told you that your standard cleaning procedure might just be one of your biggest hidden costs? What if you're cleaning way too much? Today, we're going to dig into a scientifically backed method to get that precious production time back. And that brings us to the million-dollar question. And I mean that literally. In terms of operational costs, are you cleaning your equipment too often? Answering this honestly could totally transform your facility's output. I mean, think about it this way. Every single hour your team spends on a clean down, that's an hour you're not making product. That's pure downtime, it's consuming resources, and it's a direct hit to your bottom line. It's a cost we all just kind of accept, but maybe we shouldn't. And you know, this hidden cost, it's so much more than just the cleaning chemicals and the water bill. It's the massive opportunity cost of all that expensive equipment just sitting there, idle. So the real question is, how do we challenge this status quo safely and, scientifically?
Well, the answer is something called a campaign study validation. And let's be super clear right from the start. This is not about cutting corners. It's not about taking risks. It's about using solid science and hard data to prove you can run more batches without ever compromising safety or quality.
So what in the world is a campaign study? Okay, think of it like this. It's a validation on steroids. Instead of cleaning after every single batch, you prove that you can run a whole campaign, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 5, maybe more, consecutive batches of the same product and guarantee that the last batch is just as pure and safe as the very first one.
This visual right here, it perfectly captures that shift in mindset. The old way is this choppy start and stop process. Batch, clean, batch, clean. It's so inefficient. The campaign model, though, is this beautiful, continuous flow of multiple batches with just one single cleaning at the very end. This is where the massive efficiency gains come from.
Okay, so this sounds great, right? But you can't just, decide to stop cleaning as often. You need certainty. And maybe even more importantly, auditors and regulators. They're going to need solid, bulletproof proof. And that all starts with a really smart, strategic plan.
To build that proof, your entire validation needs to stand on 3 solid pillars. First, you've got to select your worst-case product. Second, you conduct a really thorough risk assessment. And third, you establish strict, absolutely non-negotiable acceptance criteria.
All right, let's dig into that first pillar, because it's a little counterintuitive. You don't pick your easiest product for this study. Nope. You go for your toughest challenge, your worst-case product. Why? Simple. If you can prove the process is safe for your most difficult, gnarliest product, that validation automatically covers all the easier ones.
So what does worst case actually mean? Well, is it a product with low solubility that just loves to bake onto your reactor walls? Or maybe it's a high-potency product where even a tiny, microscopic amount of carryover is a huge risk. Or hey, maybe it's just the perfect breeding ground for microbes. You have to find the heavyweight champion of pain-in-the-neck products in your facility.
Okay, so you've picked your champion. Now we move on to the risk assessment. And really, this whole process is framed by one simple, direct question. What could possibly go wrong if we do this? This is where you have to play devil's advocate to build a protocol that's absolutely defensible. Your risk assessment has to tackle these key areas head-on. Is residue going to build up and maybe degrade over time between batches? What about microbes? How long can that equipment just sit there dirty before we have a problem? This process helps you define really critical limits, like your maximum dirty hold time, or DHT. And finally, pillar number 3, you have to define what success looks like. And these are not suggestions, they're strict scientific goalposts. Sure, visual inspection is part of it. It has to look clean, but we go way deeper. Chemical limits have to be below the maximum allowable carryover, or MACO, and the total viable count for microbes has to be below your approved limits. And of course, the final batch has to meet every single quality spec, just like the first one, no exceptions.
All right, the plan is locked and loaded. We've done all the brain work. Now it's time to move from the whiteboards and the meeting rooms out to the production floor. It's time to put the theory to the test.
The execution itself is pretty logical, but you have to be meticulous. You start with an absolutely spotless, verified clean system. Then you run your campaign. Let's say it's 5 consecutive batches. After that very last batch, you run your normal cleaning procedure, You take your samples from all the hardest to clean spots, and then it's off to the lab for the moment of truth.
So after all that careful planning, all that precise execution, what's the big reward? What's the payoff? Well, let me tell you, it is massive.
I mean, just look at this comparison. It's night and day. Before, you were stuck in that clean after every single batch cycle. That meant tons of downtime, wasted water, high labor costs, the works. After the validation, you might only be cleaning after every 5th batch. The drop in downtime, water use, and cost is just enormous.
And here's the absolute best part. This isn't just a hunch or some new internal policy you're trying out. You now have cold, hard, documented proof. You have scientific evidence that you can show to any auditor or regulator who walks through your door. You have validated a smarter way to work.
So, if you take just one thing away from all this, let it be this right here. All that heavy lifting you do up front, the planning, the testing, the documentation, it's not just busy work. It's a strategic investment that unlocks incredible, massive operational efficiency that will pay you back for years to come. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Take a hard look at your own facility, your own operations. What's the single biggest win, the biggest efficiency gain that's just sitting there waiting for you to unlock it by challenging the way things have always been done? Thanks for joining this explainer.